3, 2, 1.
Hello, I am the Friar Monk from Monty Python and the Holy Grail. No, I'm just kidding. I'm Patrick, and here's another training video for doing your live show. So today we're going to be talking about common issues that you might face while doing your show, and some fixes that you can do without having to contact me for every little problem that happens at the station. So the first thing that we're going to talk about is the overhead speaker. So normally you should be able to hear what you're playing on the air. There is one exception to that. If you have a microphone that's turned on, it's going to cancel out the overhead speakers because we don't want any feedback happening into the microphone. So one common issue that you may have is if you're not hearing audio from the overhead speakers, check to see if a microphone is on. This is especially the case if you go to break and you're not hearing the break through the speakers. Just make sure you turned all of the microphones off. Also check this light. Is this light's going to be on and flashing if you have a microphone on? Another thing that you're going to want to check if you are not getting audio on the overhead speakers, see if the channels that you're using are assigned on the aux button. The aux button determines which channels play on the overhead speakers. Maybe the channels that you're using do not have aux lit up, and in that case, you're not going to hear them on the overhead speakers. You also want to make sure that on this external row right here, that aux is selected, because this determines which of the rows of buttons goes to the overhead speaker. Another thing you're going to want to check is the CR volume. Right now you can't hear anything because it's all the way down. So just turn it up like that, and you're good to go. Finally, of course, make sure that the channels that you're broadcasting or want to broadcast are actually turned on. In other words, they have the red button lit up, and that the volume slider is up, and that something is actually registering on the program VU meter. The final issue you may have if you're not hearing anything from the overhead speakers is maybe they went off on a voltage protection or a voltage overload. And you will see that from this device right here. If this protection light is on, then this overhead speakers were shut off because there was too much power being fed to them. So what you're going to want to do is probably turn the input knob down a little bit, which is going to lower the voltage of the speakers. You're going to have to turn it off and then back on again to reset the protection. So those are some common fixes for not having audio on the overhead speakers. Now, what if you're trying to play something from the computer and you're not getting any audio from the computer? There could be a couple of issues for that. First off, make sure your comp channel is turned on and turned up as well. Make sure your comp channel is on the appropriate channels as seen here, program, odd, and aux. Util if you have somebody on the phone line and you want them to hear the computer channel. Also check the actual computer itself. Check the volume icon down here in the taskbar. You want to make sure that it is at least 80% and that the output device is selected as Virtual Out 1 to 2 Maya. If it's selected as a different device, it's not going to go through the comp channel. So you got to make sure it's selected as that device. So those are some common issues for not having audio from your computer. What happens if the computer crashes or DJ controls doesn't work? Well, first we're going to cover DJ controls. Sometimes, especially during a network outage or something wrong with the internet or what have you, DJ controls will stop working. In that case, the first thing you're going to want to do is just try and restart DJ controls. So you're going to close it, or if it already crashed, it might already be closed, and then you're going to reopen it from the desktop. So it's this WWSU DJ controls icon. And if it comes back up, you're good to go. If it does not come back up, then what you're going to do, just keep talking. The goal is don't have any dead air. You want to keep talking, keep playing music, do whatever it takes to not have dead air. If you run out of things to say or you need to end your show and this is still not working, or if the computer has crashed, then you can turn on CD3, which is the emergency CD, and within 5 seconds it will start playing. It will play on the CD3 channel, and the CD is on a loop, so once it runs out of its 75-minute playlist, it'll go back to the beginning and keep playing until we turn it off. If there's anything wrong with the computer or DJ controls, you're going to want to report that to the engineer. And before you try and reboot anything, or before you dismiss any error messages, you're going to want to note the error message and give that to the engineer so they can take a look and try and prevent that from happening again. If the computer does crash, you can try and reboot it if you want to give that a shot. The computer's down here, just push the power button. If you have to forcefully restart the computer, if just pushing it isn't doing anything, you're going to push and hold for about 5 to 10 seconds and will forcefully shut off the computer, and then you can reboot it. Don't ever do that unless if it becomes completely unresponsive, even just to pushing. Let's see here. Another thing you could do in emergencies is if you have your cell phone or computer, you can plug it into the aux cable, which it's not currently hooked up to the XLRs right now, but we do have an XLR to headset plug, and you can play stuff from your computer as well if you wanted to. What happens if you get a silence detection notification? So you're doing your show, and then a big red box comes up on your computer and says, silence detected. Be sure to check your audio levels. Well, that's the first thing you should be doing. Check your audio levels. Make sure that when you're talking and everything that you're playing equals up to, so you're going to look at the top row up here, make sure that it goes to no lower than -16 for either channel. So in this case, this one's too low, but since this one's above -16, you're okay because you have one channel that's above -16. But your target is 0, so you want to try and get it as close to 0 as possible with your volume. You also want to check to make sure that all of the channels you're using are turned on and turned up, and make sure to adjust the volume if you have to make them louder, and so on. Also make sure that the channels you're using are assigned to program. That's PGM. That's the red buttons up here in the row of assign buttons, and that tells the mixer board which channels to send over the air. Alright, so next troubleshooting tip. The next troubleshooting tip. What if one of these mics are not working? So you have it on, you have it up, they're talking, but nothing's going through. Pretty simple. Just have them go to a different mic. If more than one person has to share a mic, you can do that as well. You do want to report that to the engineer though, so that they can make note, try and fix it, or put in to have the microphone replaced. What if your guests are too quiet? So your guests are talking on the air and they're barely showing up or registering on the program VU meter. First off, tell them to get closer to the mic. They should be no more than about 3 inches from the microphone. So this is a good distance right here. Once you start getting to about here or further back, they're going to be too quiet. These microphones are meant to filter out background noise. So you can be 6 inches or more from the microphone and be really quiet. You also want to, of course, adjust their volume as necessary on the mixer board. If you have to crank them up a little bit. Just keep an eye, because sometimes, like if they laugh or something like that, they're gonna start getting really loud. Just make sure to turn it down at that point. Another thing that you should keep in mind when it comes to guest volume is the angle at which they are talking into the microphone. Let's say there's a guest that is sitting in that chair, and then you have a guest sitting in my spot, and they want to talk to that guest while they're on the air. So let's say if the microphone is positioned like this, and they turn their head like this. Well, what's going to happen is when they turn their head like this to face the guest, their volume is going to fade on the air. You shouldn't do this. You should also tell your guests not to do this. Instead, they should adjust the microphone so that it continually points directly in front of their mouth as they're talking to the other guest. So make sure to pivot around the microphone. Don't do this. Don't do that. You're going to pivot the microphone when you move to face somebody else. Let's say a guest is using the headset and reports that either their audio level is too low or they are not getting any audio at all. First off, make sure that they are plugging in their headset correctly through the jack. And these jacks are delicate, so some of them may be broken, but they should be plugged in using an adapter. So these plugs hold 1/4-inch headsets. If you have a 1/8 headset, which is the standard headset jack, which looks like this, then you need one of these adapters for it to fit into the desk jack. So first off, make sure that they are plugged in properly and secure. If you're still not getting any audio, then you may need to check the volume level. So the headset volume is the studio knob on the mixer board right here. If the DJ is not getting if you as the DJ is not getting any audio or the audio is too quiet, then you need to use the HDPN knob, which controls this one. Now, don't get that one confused with this one, because this one is also studio. The HDPN is the one that's plugged directly into the mixer board. And finally, we have no audio on the aux cord. So I specifically separated this from others because the aux cord will sometimes not go all the way into a headset jack, especially if you have your phone case still on your phone. That's a common issue. So like you'll have this plugged in and either you're not getting any audio at all or just the left or the right channel is going through. So what you want to do is take your phone case off and then try and plug it in, and it should go in all the way at that point. Same applies to laptops. If you have a laptop case on, it might not be going into the headset jack all the way. The cord is a little picky about that. And of course, also make sure your aux channel is on and all the way up. So those are common troubleshooting issues. If you've tried all of the steps that I mentioned in this video when troubleshooting something and something's still not working, at that point you want to utilize CD3, the emergency disaster CD, and you're going to want to contact the director or the engineer. Also, if you experience an issue that I did not cover on this video, contact a director or an engineer, and they'll tell you what to do from that point. Alright, so that concludes this video. Thank you for watching.